Welcome to Literary Insights. This is the summary of the book Reinvent Yourself, Susan Kahn. If you like this content, please consider the book provides practical tools and guidance to help those considering a career change or wanting to reinvent themselves. It encourages the reader to never give up hope, connect, reconnect, and emerge renewed after a period of change. The insights are grounded in psychological theory, but presented accessibly with real-life examples that make the book both useful and entertaining. It balances theory with practical advice, honesty with hope, and helps the reader find acceptance and courage in the messy reinvention process. The warm and encouraging approach is underpinned by in-depth experience and research. It invites the reader to find self-compassion as they navigate reinvention. Overall, the quotes praise the book for providing an invaluable guide for meaningful change and planning reinvention in a well-considered, reader-friendly way. It encourages and inspires readers to believe in their ability to reinvent themselves. The nature of work has changed dramatically over the last few centuries, from predictable trades to unpredictable, constantly changing roles. This has caused many to rethink their work identity and purpose. Our working lives rarely follow a linear path, but rather have ups and downs. We experience various transitions like first jobs, promotions, retirement, etc. Life events like illness, relationships changes, loss can also impact our work. We'll likely face forced changes like redundancies or mergers as well. These transitions and changes provide opportunities to rethink our purpose, explore passions, and reinvent how and what work we do. However, change can also be externally imposed. Embracing the cyclical nature of work is important for understanding reinvention. Throughout our careers, we'll have moments of autonomy to experiment with new roles, as well as times when reinvention is necessary in response to external forces. Understanding why we work and our values can help guide reinvention decisions. Psychology offers insights on making the most of transitions and reinvention opportunities over the course of our working lives. The passage discusses the idea of reinventing ourselves by doing what we are able and enthused to do. It notes that we often see ourselves and our work through limited perspectives, like the blind men feeling different parts of the elephant. True reinvention requires stepping back to see the full picture of who we are and our possibilities. Reinventing ourselves involves the process of unfreezing old patterns, moving to new behaviors, and refreezing the changes, as proposed by theorist Kurt Lewin. The coronavirus pandemic provides an example of how societies underwent this process of change. Reinvention may involve addressing what we value in work and how we define our purpose, talents, and sense of self outside of narrow career definitions. It's important to rediscover what really matters to us in shaping our own lives and choices. The passage discusses how silence around topics like salary can lead to issues like gender inequality and unfair distribution of domestic labor. It also mentions how money and financial success can be a core motivator for some people, as it may reflect their own self-worth and need for security and recognition. When considering reinvention or career changes, it's important to distinguish between goals and values. Goals are tangible and have a clear endpoint, but values reflect what is truly important to someone, which may change over time based on life stage and responsibilities. Common career values discussed include technical competence, managerial skills, autonomy, service, and lifestyle. A career implies following a structured path in a field, while work is more fluid and iterative as people change jobs and take on multiple roles. The passage also discusses boundaries between personal and professional identities at work. While people bring their whole selves, there are limits to what is appropriate to share. Ultimately, the passage advocates that people have the capacity for change and reinvention if they are honest about re-examining themselves and their priorities. This chapter introduces the idea that any reinvention or change inherently involves endings and loss. It is important to recognize and process the losses that come with change in order to successfully navigate transitions. The inevitability of loss during reinvention, and when it may make sense to persist or quit. Regret, transitions, and loss of identity that come with change. Liminal thinking, which refers to being in an in-between state during periods of change and uncertainty. How moments of failure, uncertainty, and not knowing can push growth even if uncomfortable. The concept of memento mori, remembering one's own mortality. Facing endings and loss head-on is part of embracing life fully rather than living half-lived with regrets. Overall, the chapter establishes that properly acknowledging and grieving what is being left behind is key to reinvention. It is about facing endings, transitions, and uncertainty directly in order to move forward in a meaningful way. The passage discusses how the concept of memento mori, or remembering one's mortality, can be a useful motif to keep in perspective the temporary nature of life and all its aspects. It reminds us that periods of pain, despair, or euphoria will inevitably pass. This acceptance of endings accompanying each stage of life is not negative, but an acknowledgement of realities. It also talks about how regret can provide insight into what matters to us. Studies have shown people regret more about things they didn't do rather than what they did. Common regrets involve missed opportunities to connect with loved ones, not pursuing education or travel, staying in bad relationships too long, etc. Reinvention allows avoiding such regret. The concept of liminality, or being in transition, is discussed. When reinventing ourselves, we take our identity and experience, but forge a new identity. In transition, we occupy a boundary state between past and future, feeling unsettled. Reinvention involves phases of separation from past, ambiguous liminal phase, and eventual incorporation of new identity. Accepting endings and inevitable change can help with reinvention. The liminal phase of uncertainty between identities or states can be a challenging time of lingering and wondering about options. It is difficult to confront changing oneself or considering reinvention. Adopting a new identity presents two main challenges: recognizing we have multiple selves we can become, and that reinvention is nearly impossible to consider. Moving from one state or identity to another involves tensions like letting go of safety and structure in the familiar, and having the psychological agility to think in new ways. The transitional space between states allows for creativity, growth, learning, and transition to occur. It provides a resting place to keep inner and outer realities interconnected. Taking on a new identity at work, like a gender transition, can lead to alienation if others do not understand and support the change. Fitting a new mold can be uncomfortable. Knowing when to persevere and when to quit a difficult situation requires discernment. Perseverance has benefits, but so does having agency to shape one's path and leave what no longer serves one's values or priorities. Decisions to reinvent often involve weighing grit versus leaving and creating an environment to make the choice well with outside perspective. Both have their place depending on individual and contextual factors. Here is a summary of the key points about identities and reinvention from the passage. Our identities can be complex and multi-layered, encompassing our various roles, skills, and internal qualities over time. Reinventing ourselves requires acknowledging and letting go of past identities. Comfort and mastery in a particular role or skill can give pride, but moving to new identities requires discomfort and moving away from familiar comforts. Quitting roles tied to our self-concept, like a job or relationship, causes identity loss. Passages involve liminal struggles, but are opportunities to emerge reinvented. Past identities provide experience, but do not define our future. Stories of reinvention show how people embraced endings to pursue new goals and fulfillment through changes like careers, gender transition, recovering from illness, and entrepreneurship. Endings are difficult parts of life involving emotional grief and loss. However, they are necessary for beginnings and reinventing ourselves for a new normal. Reinvention requires embracing endings and the uncertainties that follow lost identities and roles. The key theme is that reinvention involves acknowledging past identities, moving through discomfort to leave them behind, and embracing endings as opportunities for new beginnings and fulfillment through our evolving senses of self over time. Both past identities and inevitable endings are part of the process of reinventing who we are. This passage discusses planning for career reinvention and transitioning from one stage or zone to another. It defines 4 zones: 1, at ease, comfortable and settled, not inclined to plan changes; 2, comfortable place, a space of relaxed learning and skill development within a structured system; 3, outside comfort zone, requires courage to make a leap to something new, untested skills, embracing uncertainty but learning; 4. Danger zone. May need help, feeling overwhelmed by new responsibilities in an unfamiliar field. The key points are that planning is important for reinvention, but one must first gain clarity on the desired destination or future self. Transitioning between comfort zones involves challenging oneself to learn and take calculated risks outside of what is familiar. Developing the courage to leave a space of ease and enter uncertainty is part of the process of growth and change. Overall, it discusses identifying where one currently sits in terms of comfort risk and how to strategically navigate moving to a new zone through preparation and learning. The passage discusses the importance of recognizing one's own skills gaps and learning needs before taking on new tasks that could potentially cause harm if not properly understood. It advocates for acknowledging "I do not know" and seeking guidance rather than rushing into action. It introduces the conscious competency model of learning, which involves progressing from unconscious incompetence to conscious incompetence to conscious competence, and ultimately unconscious competence as expertise is gained. This model can be useful both for individual learning and for understanding where others may be in the learning process. Career construction theory is discussed as a framework for thoughtfully planning one's career path while accounting for societal and organizational contexts. It involves self-organizing, self-regulating, and self-concerning processes for developing self-awareness and career narratives. Self-doubt and procrastination are noted as potential barriers to reinvention or change. While self-doubt can drive harder work, it's important to acknowledge past accomplishments. Procrastination can be addressed through commitment strategies like public pledges or list-making to reach long-term goals. Lists can be used to plan and organize tasks, but some lists are more effective than others. Short, simple lists of achievable tasks are more likely to be completed than long, vague lists of lifetime goals. Big lifetime goals require breaking down into smaller, more manageable steps to make progress realistic. Examples are provided of breaking down the goal of getting a master's degree into specific research and preparation tasks. It's important to reflect on whether goals will truly satisfy or if they may lead to burnout. Achieving a goal doesn't guarantee arriving at the desired destination. One needs to consider goals' impacts on health, relationships, and longer-term fulfillment. Taking pauses for reflection is important to regeneration and reconsidering plans. Constant activity can prevent seeing if goals align with one's values and changing interests over time. Silence allows space for careful contemplation. Prematurely committing to an identity or career path without exploration can close off other possibilities through identity foreclosure. It's better to keep options open through the identity moratorium stage of exploration. The passage discusses decision-making when planning a career reinvention or transition. It explores different approaches people may take, like relying on heuristics and gut reactions, taking a rational approach by weighing costs and benefits, or taking a plausible path by filtering options based on key criteria. It suggests the best approach combines rational decision-making with associative and relational factors. Small changes like job crafting by modifying tasks or social interactions can enable reinvention without major changes. Sitting with uncertainty takes courage. When planning, it's important to focus on purpose, contribution, and using one's gifts rather than being overwhelmed by options outside one's control. Overall, it provides frameworks for navigating decisions in career transitions and reinventions. Here is a summary of the key points. Our thoughts and beliefs play a powerful role in shaping our abilities and potential for change. Limiting beliefs can hold us back, while empowering beliefs can help us achieve more. Neuroplasticity refers to the brain's ability to change and rewire itself throughout life based on experiences. New connections form when we learn new skills or have new experiences, while unused connections weaken over time. We have more control over our brain wiring than previously believed. Through focused attention, repetition of skills behaviors, and mediating positive self-talk, we can consciously change our brain pathways and develop new abilities. Challenging limiting thoughts, seeking growth experiences, mindfulness practices, gratitude journaling, and acknowledging small wins can help overcome fears and self-doubt that stem from outdated brain patterns. Understanding how habits and automatic thoughts form in the brain shows why sustained behavior change takes time and conscious effort. But it also illustrates our power to shape our own potential through self-directed neuroplasticity. Ongoing research is expanding our knowledge of the brain's adaptability and how we can leverage this to achieve goals like personal reinvention, career transitions, lifestyle changes, overcoming fears, and more. Here is a summary of the key points. Neuroscience and psychology complement each other in understanding human behavior and cognition. While psychology focuses on personality and behavior, neuroscience examines the brain structures and functions underlying these phenomena. Advances like connectomics, optogenetics, and transcranial stimulation have provided new insights into how different brain regions and neural circuits are involved in various cognitive functions and behaviors. The concept of neuroplasticity demonstrates that the brain remains malleable and can change its structure and function through experience. This allows for the possibility of self-directed neuroplasticity, where one can consciously modify their brain functions through focused attention and intentional practice. Coaches and facilitators can help clients harness self-directed neuroplasticity to change unwanted habits, regulate emotions, and pursue transformation goals. Some common beliefs about brain lateralization and unused brain potential are myths. The brain functions in more complex and integrated ways than simplistic models often portrayed. Childhood experiences and mental frameworks developed early on can still unconsciously influence our adult behaviors and perceptions, despite cognitive advances. Overall, understanding neuroscience provides useful insights, but not definitive answers for human cognition and behavior. To pass a professional exam or face another challenge, our natural response can sometimes arise from early childhood experiences rather than our reasoning mind as an adult. We may react as a vulnerable child, fearful of rejection or abandonment, rather than dealing with the situation rationally. This stems from how our experiences with dominant parents or others when young shape how we interpret relationships and view mistakes later in life. While the logical adult mind knows intellectual failure doesn't mean the end of acceptance, the emotional child brain can still feel that way due to early programming. Overcoming this requires awareness of how our past influences our present reactions. The passage discusses threats to our survival like failure, and discusses how the fear of failure can drive flight responses like avoiding challenges or freeze responses like being unable to act when put on the spot. It talks about activating the parasympathetic nervous system to reduce stress and allow for higher-level thinking to overcome panic responses. It describes Kahneman's two types of thinking: fast, effective thinking, System 1, and slower, analytical thinking, System 2. They originate from different brain areas. It discusses how heuristics or mental shortcuts can lead to flawed decisions and issues like stereotyping if not checked by analytical thinking. It relates this to issues like making job decisions based only on superficial factors rather than deeper analysis. It summarizes findings on delayed gratification from the marshmallow test and how follow-up studies found environment and trust impacted results more than innate traits. It discusses how creating reliable environments can help train the brain to delay gratification through small, repeated promises and rewards. The passage then discusses mindset and Carol Dweck's growth versus fixed mindsets and how they impact skills, challenges, feedback, and view of potential. The global economy means leaders must work across different cultures, which have varying views on what is normal accepted in areas like communication style, work practices, definitions of success, and relationship to authority. A global mindset considers these cultural differences and how to minimize misunderstandings by thinking about the impact of differences and taking a worldview rather than just a local/parochial view. Having an abundance mindset is useful for reinvention, believing there are many opportunities rather than just one. An abundance mindset enables broader, more creative solutions. A scarcity mindset, limiting possibilities. An entrepreneurial mindset constantly looks for opportunities and embraces challenges, failures, rather than avoiding risks. Research shows the brain can change through experience, practice, and the belief that change is possible is linked to actually achieving transformation when working towards reinvention. Optimism and pessimism impact reinvention efforts. Optimism may be a self-fulfilling prophecy, while pessimism focuses more on potential failures than successes. The illusion of control is overestimating one's ability to influence outcomes. This can impact expectations around reinvention efforts. Acknowledging this illusion provides a reality check. Systemic issues like racism, bias, inequality can deeply impact one's mindset and ability to manifest goals, though should not prevent adopting a positive mindset. The law of attraction focuses on abundance, seeing challenges as opportunities for growth. Manifestation involves having a clear vision of what you want and attracting real-life events to match your thoughts through patience and magnetic desire. Holistic thinking aligns mind and body. The gut and brain are strongly connected, as serotonin is mostly produced in the gut. Manifestation requires self-reflection to understand values and life goals, not just passive thinking. Visualization can trigger the same physical responses as real experiences. The brain can be retrained through practice, like meditation. Taking care of sleep, limiting screens before bed, and getting 7+ hours of sleep nourishes brain growth and change. Stories showcase reinvention through leaving stability for fulfillment, like Tara Swart, and persevering against barriers like Jason Arde and Eugene K. Choi. Vision and action were keys to transformation. Dee was working as a property developer in the UK, but had an awakening that inspired him to live and work in LA. He had no visa, contacts, or money, but a strong belief it was his destiny. He used Twitter to find unpaid work experience with an interior designer. Through hard work, he established himself and founded Studio Jake Arnold. He took a leap of faith to move to LA and has not looked back. Jake now works for celebrities designing plush homes in LA. He has experience and flair for design with a warm aesthetic. Without formal training, he has become influential in the industry through intrinsic strengths. He published a book and has design collaborations. He launched an online design consultation platform. The psychology of reinvention is central to his work in recognizing vulnerability in accomplished people. The passage discusses negative thinking patterns that can limit opportunities for reinvention or new challenges. It talks about how our internal thoughts and self-talk impact how we interpret and feel about events. Some examples of irrational limiting beliefs mentioned are thinking you are too old, too young, or not experienced enough for a new opportunity. The passage encourages challenging these thoughts by questioning if they are absolutely true or if there could be other perspectives. It introduces the idea of rational emotive behavior therapy and the work method of Byron Katie, which both aim to replace irrational beliefs with more constructive thoughts. Applying questions like, is it true, and how would I see it without this belief, can help overcome thoughts holding one back. Overall, the key point is that feelings come from the stories we tell ourselves. So by confronting and changing irrational limiting thoughts, we can impact how we see and feel about new opportunities for reinvention or change. The generational analysis also provides context on trends in career expectations. Here is a summary of key points about our chronological age. Chronological age is our actual age based on our date of birth. It is a fixed measurement of how long we have been alive. Social age is more flexible and tied to life events and cultural norms. Our social age depends on factors like having children or cultural expectations about different life stages. Having a mix of age groups at work provides different perspectives and experiences. Both younger and older workers have advantages to offer in terms of skills, energy, collaboration, diversity of thought, and a willingness to learn. Ageism can negatively impact people of all ages, both older and younger workers. It takes many forms like age discrimination, negative stereotypes, and internalized negative self-perceptions about aging. Addressing ageism is important for promoting fairness and inclusion. While chronological age is fixed, our ability to learn, grow, and reinvent ourselves is not restricted by age. Experience, skills, and a lifelong commitment to learning can benefit workers of any age seeking career transitions or changes. Here is a summary of the key points. Taking an expansive view of life, beyond just roles like parent or grandparent, can help avoid limiting ourselves and open up opportunities. The language we use to describe ourselves, like retired, can suggest finality or possibilities for reinvention. It's better to emphasize ongoing interests and flexibility. As we age, We may worry excessively about how others perceive physical or other changes, but research shows others judge us less harshly than we judge ourselves. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control and not worry excessively about uncertainties. We should seize opportunities for growth and not limit ourselves due to age. Developing self-efficacy through experience, role models, encouragement, and managing doubts can empower reinvention at any stage of life. Stories highlighted successful career changes, like from dentist to makeup artist and from CEO to language student, showing reinvention is possible with passion and perseverance. Here is a summary of the key points about leadership and followership from the provided text. Being a leader and follower are not mutually exclusive. Good leaders also exhibit followership skills, and good followers have leadership qualities. Most leaders also have other leaders they report to. Leadership can be expressed informally by inspiring and guiding others, not just through a formal role. Anyone can demonstrate leadership through their character and example. Self-employed entrepreneurs and business owners take on leadership by being their own boss, but also perform follower roles like doing the work. They are ultimately responsible for success or failure. Our view of what leadership looks like is influenced by our internal leadership in the mind concept, based on experiences and imagination. This may need to be reinvented to be more inclusive. Successful leadership reinvention involves self-awareness, emotional intelligence, authenticity, and adaptability beyond traditional hierarchical leadership styles and roles. An openness to ongoing development is key. Being an entrepreneurial leader demands resilience in the face of failure and the ability to work independently while overseeing all aspects of the business. It also allows for autonomy, creativity, and building a company from scratch. Thought leadership involves influencing others through thought-provoking visions of the future and actionable steps to get there. It requires regularly sharing quality content to establish expertise in a field and change perspectives, even if it brings opposition. Past views of leadership were more hierarchical, with a clear chain of command and authoritative boss in control. While some remnants remain, modern leadership emphasizes shared decision-making, flexibility, vulnerability, and continual learning. Reluctant leaders find themselves leading not by choice, but due to circumstances. They may lead modestly, but work tirelessly out of duty. Reluctant leadership can foster authenticity and humility over vanity. Great reluctant leaders include Moses and Nelson Mandela. There is a lack of enthusiasm for leadership roles among many capable individuals in educational systems. Reluctant leaders may discover inner strengths and become highly effective through support and growth in the role. Leading in alignment with one's personal values and priorities is important for finding meaning in work. Leaders may need to reinvent themselves if their organization's priorities conflict with their. Technology is changing the way we work and lead. Leaders need to adapt to new ways of working, learning, and collaborating, enabled by AI and data, while ensuring technology supports human values. Some individuals may prefer focusing on their specialist work rather than leadership roles. Dual career tracks allowing specialization or leadership options can support this. Leadership reinvention can mean moving from a limiting, diminisher style of leadership to a more empowering, multiplier style that enhances others' potential. Effective leaders can take a single-minded hedgehog approach or a more flexible, creative fox style. Neither is inherently better. Transitioning into a manager role from individual contributor brings new challenges in setting goals, measuring performance, and gaining authority while retaining team support. Self-compassion aids managing this change. Here's a summary of the key points in S. The concept of being a good enough leader rather than striving for perfection can help managers avoid burnout and maintain self-compassion. There is no single perfect way to lead. Leaders are continually learning and adapting through experiences. Embracing failures and feedback allows for continuous self-reflection and growth, similar to how software evolves through beta testing. We don't have to choose between being a follower or leader. Identities are complex and multifaceted. Ambition and skills can develop in different areas over time. Fear of rejection or past events may unconsciously hold some people back from pursuing leadership roles. Separating from old self-scripts and just taking action without overthinking can help transition to new opportunities. Leadership should involve both work and enjoyment to avoid becoming too serious. Bringing joy to one's work and those around them is important for sustainable leadership. Here is a summary of the key points about Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud was an Austrian neurologist who founded the psychoanalytic school of psychology. He is considered the founding father of psychotherapy and is best known for his theories on the unconscious mind and repression. Some of Freud's major theories include psychodynamics, the Oedipus complex, ego superego, and the mechanisms of repression and sublimation. He proposed that early childhood experiences, especially relating to sexuality and aggression, greatly influence our personality development. Freud believed that the mind could be divided into the conscious, preconscious, and unconscious realms. He placed strong emphasis on the unconscious mind and how unconscious desires and motivations can influence behavior. His early psychoanalytic method involved free association, dream analysis, and interpretation of resistance and transference between analyst and patient. He believed neurosis and other mental conditions originated from conflicts between conscious desires and unconscious drives. Freud's work was highly influential and controversial. While his theories dominated psychotherapy in the early 20th century, many concepts have been challenged or modified by later research and theories. Nevertheless, he remains an iconic figure in the history of psychology and had a significant impact on 20th century intellectual life. Some key works by There are various factors that can prevent us from making changes in our lives and creating transformation. Some obstacles are tangible, such as financial commitments that make us feel trapped in our current situation. We may also be dealing with a crisis that prevents us from prioritizing our own needs. Caring for family members can constrain our ability to change. These practical barriers need to be addressed directly. In addition to external factors, our own internal beliefs and narratives can hold us back through negative self-talk and old narratives rooted in childhood experiences. These internal psychological obstacles can strongly contribute to a sense of being stuck. Overcoming them requires focused attention and effort. While being stuck is unpleasant, it is a natural part of the growth process and the first step towards identifying what we want to change. True understanding comes from developing an emotional connection to issues, not just an intellectual grasp. Reinvention is often non-linear, with progress and setbacks. Habituation can cause plateaus until we are willing to challenge the status quo. Fear of failure and comfort with the familiar can also inhibit change, even if we wish for something different. Ultimately, overcoming obstacles requires confronting what is holding us back. The passage discusses themes of failure, mistakes, rejection, and the gap between who we are and who we want to be, which are inevitable parts of a meaningful life, an introspection that can fuel personal growth and change. It talks about how success is rarely an overnight achievement, but built upon a lifetime of struggle. Facing and learning from failure is important, but ego-threatening, so we often resist learning from failure. The concept of a failure CV is introduced, encouraging openly sharing past failures. Procrastination is discussed, noting both dysfunctional delay and situations where delay can be strategic and allow planning. Fear of both failure and success are examined, with success phobia surprisingly leading some to sabotage themselves once goals are achieved, due to fear of change, exposure, loss of identity, and more. Overall, it reflects on the role of mistakes, rejections, struggles, and gaps in our potential in shaping who we become through lessons learned from setbacks on the path to reinvention and personal transformation. Here are the key points about people's needs that do not necessarily align with media or online browsing priorities. Spending too much time on media and online browsing can be a waste of time and distract from important tasks. It's important to minimize unnecessary media consumption and focus on what really matters. People have basic needs like social connection, meaningful work, purpose, learning, growth, physical health, rest, etc. Too much time online may take away from activities that fulfill these deeper needs. Offline activities like spending time with family, friends, hobbies, exercise, volunteering are important for well-being, but can get neglected or replaced with passive media consumption. The online world promotes constantly seeking external validation and comparison, but true needs are inward focused on growth and contribution rather than likes, comments. In times of crisis, like a pandemic, connecting to communities and core relationships offline becomes even more crucial for resilience and well-being. For productivity, minimizing distractions and prioritizing meaningful offline tasks is ideal rather than constantly multitasking between online and offline worlds. The key message is that while technology and media have their place, true human needs centered around relationships, purpose, and growth are often best fulfilled through real-world, offline interactions and activities rather than passive online browsing. The passage discusses the importance of having a strong support network when embarking on reinvention or times of adversity. Facing challenges alone can be daunting and lonely. Social relationships are one of the most important predictors of well-being. People need relationships to maximize their happiness and potential. Without them, well-being suffers. Some key examples given of people who reinvented themselves after adversity include Nick Vujicic, who was born without limbs but found purpose by sharing his message of hope, and Elizabeth Smart, who advocated for kidnapped children after her own kidnapping ordeal. Building a support network can include tapping into existing close relationships as well as meeting new people. The next chapter will explore specific ways to develop a network to aid in transformation and reinvention. Overcoming social isolation is important, as interactions with close friends and family provide the most benefit to well-being compared to more casual acquaintances. Supportive relationships are crucial for facing challenges. In summary, the passage emphasizes that having a strong support system is vital for undergoing reinvention or dealing with adversity, as social connections are key to well-being and making meaningful change. The next steps will cover how to build such a network. Weak ties refer to casual acquaintances, like the barista or Uber driver we interact with regularly, but don't have an established relationship with. Research shows these loose contacts can still contribute positively to our well-being. However, people often avoid interactions with those outside their close circle due to discomfort. Stepping outside our comfort zone socially mirrors challenging ourselves intellectually. Studying Doctor Who, researchers found creativity benefited more when teams included new members bringing novel ideas rather than relying only on close, trusted collaborators. An experiment encouraging tube chat in London was initially poorly received, though some embraced it as a way to connect over mundane commutes. Brief interactions can enrich our lives through shared learning. Both extroverts and introverts can network successfully, though introverts may need more preparation and recovery time for social events. Authentic self-expression is key. Friends, while caring, may be too subjective to offer honest feedback on networking habits due to emotional intimacy. Those outside the friendship can provide more objective input. Bracketing involves temporarily setting aside biases to listen to others non-judgmentally from their perspective, a valuable practice in networking. Attachment styles formed in childhood can influence relationship patterns at work. Here are the 4 main points about attachment styles. 1. Secure attachment style. Ability to form secure, loving relationships with others through trust and being trusted. 2. Anxious attachment style. Associated with neediness, clinginess, worrying when someone doesn't text back quickly, thinking someone doesn't care. 3. Avoidant attachment style. Fear of intimacy, reluctance to get close to others, doubting needs can be met in relationships. 4. Disorganized attachment style. Fearful avoidant, behaviors that swing between anxiousness and avoidance extremes. This style is the least researched. Changing dysfunctional attachment styles can be difficult, but possible through recognizing issues, getting coaching therapy help, and learning to trust and communicate appropriately in relationships. The way leaders deal with their own attachment issues will influence how they handle problems. The passage discusses the importance of building a strong support network. It highlights how British rapper Stormzy has provided funding and sponsorship to help 30 students attend university, showing his commitment to supporting others. While Stormzy is reluctant to see himself as a role model, his actions serve as an inspiration. Mentorship relationships where one person provides guidance and support to another are highly valuable, with 97% of people with mentors finding them useful and 89% of mentees being willing to become mentors themselves. The passage also discusses the concept of a thinking partner, a mutually beneficial relationship where two people from different fields can share ideas and provide support and challenge to each other's thinking. It then goes on to provide an example of how the author developed a thinking partnership with Rachel Ellison after meeting her at a conference, and how their relationship has allowed for creative exploration and reflection across various topics. The importance of feedback in personal and professional growth is also emphasized. Having an editor or mentor provides an outside perspective that can help identify unconscious biases and shortcomings in one's work. This process of review and feedback allows for clearer thinking and focus on the reader's perspective. Building a strong support network is important for career reinvention. One should look to gain knowledge, insights, and connections both online and in person. Networking online can help develop meaningful bonds, though some prefer face-to-face interactions. Introverts may find online networking provides a contained environment to engage with others. Developing an informative and up-to-date online profile, posting relevant content, and allocating time weekly to engage with others online are some tips for effective online networking. It's also important to do internal networking by bringing harmony to different parts of oneself, such as protective, injured, and firefighter parts, in order to self-awareness and manage reactions. Models like internal family systems therapy and family constellations can help with this internal work. Bert Hillinger was a priest who lived in South Africa and studied traditional Zulu tribes, observing their natural social order and how issues from previous generations impacted systems over time. He developed family constellation therapy to help address intergenerational trauma and patterns. The approach uses techniques like psychodrama and objects to represent family members to identify new patterns and relationships. It allows for intergenerational healing by exploring unresolved issues from past generations that still impact current generations. This healing benefits both the individual and their family social groups. The work is best done with a trained therapist to help process any intense emotions that emerge in a healthy way. Intergenerational trauma is now recognized in scientific research. Hillinger's approach reflects his own life experiences, rejecting rigid traditions and bringing lessons from Zulu tribes into psychotherapy to address intergenerational impacts. The passage discusses the concept of temporal discounting, which refers to how people tend to value immediate gains over longer-term future gains. It encourages the reader to think about their future social, emotional, and material needs and wants, such as relationships, careers, families, travel, etc. Even though these futures versions of ourselves seem far off now, they require planning and attention today. Developing a closer relationship and empathy with one's future self can foster self-compassion and better planning. Seeing oneself as a continual work in progress rather than fixed helps with reinvention over time. While change is rarely linear or predictable, maintaining a growth mindset of not yet instead of not possible allows one to view achievements as attainable through effort over time. The passage concludes by having the reader write a letter to their future self about their plans and aspirations, followed by a letter back from their future self to foster connection to one's reinvented future possibilities. This dialogue is meant to facilitate avoiding temporal discount.